Welcome to the 700 Club. It's Putin's war and not the Russian people's war. That's what the Russian journalist said who risked jail by protesting the war. Ukrainians continue to resist the invasion, rejecting an ultimatum today to lay down their arms and surrender.
Well, Russian troops are stalled. Fears continue to mount that Putin will become more and more ruthless in an attempt to pound Ukrainians into surrender. Dale Hurd brings us the latest.
As the Russian invasion stretches into day 26 and may have stalled, Russia has upped its attacks against non-military targets. In the southern port city of Mariupol, leaders rejected a Russian ultimatum to surrender today. Local officials say an airstrike destroyed a school where hundreds of people were seeking shelter.
We've seen deliberate targeting of cities and towns and civilians throughout in the last several weeks.
In the capital of Kyiv, Ukrainian officials say this missile strike destroyed a shopping mall, killing at least one person. CBN's George Thomas in Kyiv.
This was last night's Russian missile attack on the Metroville Mall here in the northwestern part of the city. Almost a month into Russia's offensive, it is clear that they haven't managed to completely encircle the capital. So what they're doing, in essence, is positioning their missile as well as artillery fire close enough so that the pounding can continue.
There are also unconfirmed reports that the Russian army is forcibly deporting Ukrainians to Russian territory.
It is unconscionable for Russia to force Ukrainian citizens into Russia.
In her first American interview, the Russian journalist who risked jail by speaking out against the war says the Russian people oppose it.
It's Putin's war, not Russian people's war.
Meanwhile, at least 10 million Ukrainians have been forced out of their homes. 1/4 of the population are now refugees. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, millions of displaced Ukrainians are fleeing with only as much as they can carry. These refugees need food, water, other necessities, and CBN's Operation Blessing is working with others to ship those much-needed supplies into the country.
We are here at the Operation Blessing warehouse close to the border with Ukraine. And this is a place from where we are able to receive truckloads full of relief goods and distribute them to the other side, to the Ukrainian border, and to our warehouse, which has been set up on the other side. And these goods will be a real blessing to the people of Ukraine who really need it right now because there's a shortage in the shops. We have teams ready in Ukraine to distribute these goods. So it's amazing to see how God is bringing these strategic locations together and the people together to help make this happen. And it includes you as an Operation Blessing donor. Thank you for making this happen. It means so much to the people in Ukraine right now. Behind me is a truck that's currently being loaded with relief goods that came from Germany. And then this truck driver from Ukraine is currently is loading his truck with help from a forklift driver here to make sure that these goods will be on their way to Ukraine very fast to help the people that need it most. And all of this is made possible by your prayers and by your support. And it's amazing how God provides for everything that we need. So we're so thankful. Thank you for praying for Ukraine and also for our team on the ground here.
Well, let's look at just one of the areas where Operation Blessing is helping people in need. We're opening warehouse facilities. We're contracting with trucks, as you just saw, so that we can bring much-needed relief to the refugees in Poland, but also supply Ukrainians right in Ukraine. If we can get a map, we can show you all the different places where Orphans Promise, Operation Blessing are currently working. That warehouse is on the Polish side of the border of Ukraine. But there's all the different centers that need supplies and need relief aid, and the need is absolutely tremendous. These refugees are leaving literally with nothing. They need food, they need water, the babies need infant formula, the mothers need diapers. We want to be there, we want to help them, and you can be a part of it. How? Give us a call and say, yes, I want to be a part. 1-800-700-7000. Just say, I want to give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can also write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. You can also text OB Crisis to 71777, or you can visit cbn.com. There's a place on the website where you can designate your gift to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund and be a part of it, be a part of helping those in need. I know a lot of you are praying for the Orphans Promise staffer who was literally kidnapped on the street. A hood was placed over her head. She was carried away. We don't have an update on where she is. We assume Russian troops have taken her, just as they've taken many people in that city where she was providing relief aid to Ukrainians, and is part of the forced resettlement or was some kind of retaliation for distributing humanitarian aid. We don't know. But we do know that God answers prayer. So please be in prayer that she would be released, that she would be safe and returned. In other news, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas is in the hospital. This comes as the Senate is set to begin hearings on President Biden's nominee to replace Justice Stephen Breyer. John Jessup has more from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. Doctors say Justice Thomas, who is 73 years old, is recovering from an infection and is expected to go home in a day or two. In the meantime, Senate confirmation hearings for Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson begin today. She's the first African-American woman nominated to the high court. CBN's Mark Martin has more on her background and why, despite her historic nomination, some oppose her confirmation.
Democrats hope the process of confirming Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson will be quick and bipartisan based on votes she received last year that put her on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. The 51-year-old judge would become the third black justice and first federal public defender to sit on the Supreme Court. In addition, the Harvard-trained lawyer served as the vice chair of the U.S. Sentencing Commission. President Obama nominated her to the federal bench in 2012.
For too long, our government, our courts, haven't looked like America. And I believe it's time that we have a court that reflects the full talents and greatness of our nation, with a nominee of extraordinary qualifications.
And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed as the next Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, I can only hope that my life and career, my love of this country and the Constitution, and my commitment to upholding the rule of law and the sacred principles upon which this great nation was founded will inspire future generations of Americans.
The nomination, however, is receiving some pushback. President and CEO of Concerned Women for America, Penny Nance, spoke out against Jackson's work on behalf of pro-abortion organizations.
We know that she has worked along with the abortion left, NARAL and others in order to write briefs, to write amicus briefs on their behalf that encourage the discrimination against pro-life views.
Former Congresswoman and presidential candidate Michelle Bachmann, who is now the dean of Regent University's Robertson School of Government, offers advice for those asking questions during the confirmation hearings.
Does she believe what the Constitution says? Will she affirm what the Constitution says about the limitations put upon justices? If she says that before the camera and the public eye, then she'll prove herself a liar if she goes against what she said later on in a decision that goes beyond that. If she's deciding that she wants to make law from the bench rather than applying the law from the bench.
If confirmed, Jackson would replace Justice Stephen Breyer, who is retiring when the court's current session ends this summer. Mark Martin, CBN News.
Thanks, Mark. You can watch Judge Jackson's confirmation hearings on the CBN News Channel this week beginning at 11 a.m. today. Simply download the CBN News app or the CBN Family app. The hearings are also going to be streamed at cbnnews.com and our YouTube channel. Well, to now the crisis in our cities. The number of homeless people is growing, and so are crime rates. While some view the homeless as criminals, addicts, and mentally ill, one Christian ministry in the fight chooses to label them children of God. CBN's Lori Johnson explains why.
Increasing crime in New York City and a tragic murder in the subway, Mayor Eric Adams has ordered city workers will relocate homeless people living in the subways to shelters.
We pretended as though we didn't see it. and we allow them to live in inhumane environments.
In California, Governor Gavin Newsom wants mental health courts in each county. The plan is intended to offer treatment to homeless people with mental illness and addiction.
I mean, we could hold hands, have a candlelight vigil, talk about the way the world should be, or we could take some damn responsibility to implement our ideals, and that's what we're doing differently here.
The measure will need approval by the California legislature.
While the government plays a major role in addressing homelessness, Christian ministries are also helping people who live on the street.
A Christian response to homelessness, I would say 1, stop for the one. I say 2, learn the story. 3, never, ever underestimate the power of prayer.
6 years ago, Pastor David McBride and Nick Knoll began helping people living on the streets near their Norfolk, Virginia church by getting them to nearby shelters, employment training, addiction recovery, and mental health services.
There's tons of resources out there. Yeah. Sometimes not enough, but sometimes, there's more than what some people know.
Church volunteers focus on one-on-one relationships, similar to a mentoring program. It's called the Dream Center of Hampton Roads.
We're trying to get them to discover restoration of who God really created them to be. What's your dream career? What is the dream purpose that God has put in you? How can we restore that dream? How can we recover that dream so that when you walk down the street, no one looks at your forehead and says homeless. They look at you and say son and daughter of God.
Instead of just sending people to other services, sometimes these volunteers train and provide the help, all while fighting the stigma of homeless people being criminals, addicts, or mentally ill.
Less than half of the folks that we deal with have those situations. Now, the ones that do, they're bigger barriers. This is one extra thing that has to be overcome, in their dream restoration process.
Many find themselves living on the street through no fault of their own.
Somebody coming in town for a job that didn't work out, or they started and then got laid off. Recently, we've had a real ramp up in domestic violence situations.
A soup kitchen opened the door for Zach Sarrow to get involved.
I came one day to eat when I was homeless on the streets, and they offered me a meal and saw that I was young and sat down with me and tried to get to know me, and I opened up to them slowly, and they've been helping me ever since.
He got a job, an apartment, and gave his life to Jesus.
I wouldn't be the man that I am today without the help that the Dream Center provided.
So while government-sponsored shelters and services definitely help the homeless, the Dream Center of Hampton Roads shows the difference the church and Christians with a personal interest can make in the lives of those living on the streets. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Thanks, Lori. Great story. Gordon, it'd be great to see more of the work that the Dream Center is doing around the country.
Now, the church can rise up, and when we do, we can become this great workforce to help people in their very near time of need. Here, the Dream Center, it's right in our own backyard, right in the heart of Ghent here in Norfolk. And they just saw the problem and said, well, who's going to solve this problem? And they had a great idea. Well, how about us? What if we can mobilize resources? What if we can volunteer? What if we can make a difference? Can we take on the whole problem? No, but we can take on the problem right here in our neighborhood. So let this be an inspiration for you. You can turn people around. Prayer works. Help works. Love works. When you bring people in, listen to them, listen to their story, and see how can we help you? How can we make a difference? In today's society, it's very hard to get a job when you don't have an address, when you don't have a car, when you have no support at all, and you're living on the street. So instead of condemning them, let's reach out and help them. How can we get you a place? How can we get you job interviews? And just something as simple as how can we get you a haircut can make all the difference in the world.